What's up, Foxies? Welcome on down to the Foxhole. I'm your host, Bruce Fox, and I'm so excited for today's episode. Today's episode is all about my trip back to Cincinnati, Ohio, that I took last year, September of 2024. And we're just going to talk about just how that trip was just so nostalgic and how it just really changed the trajectory of like my whole sobriety, of like my mental health, and just realizing, what friendships look like, and how, like, I just started removing, people and toxic things from my life, for better mental health, which ultimately, helped with my depression. And obviously now I'm in such like a great spot in my life, and that trip home to Cincinnati just basically changed everything. So I'm basically just going to be talking about my whole trip, give you guys the itinerary, and just things I did, and just what came about that whole trip to make me realize just how people around you and your environment just really do affect kind of your like trajectory you're on in your own life. But before I get started, I do want to say I would really appreciate it if you guys would like and subscribe to the channel. It will help me out a lot, and I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you for that. So Cincinnati, Ohio. So for those of you guys that don't know, I grew up in Cincinnati. I was born and raised there, and I moved to Las Vegas in 2019. The only other place I've ever lived at was Pittsburgh area when I went to college. But outside of that, I was born and raised in Cincinnati, lived there my whole life until I was 29, aka when I moved in 2019. So that trip last year in September, I hadn't been home to Cincinnati in 2 years in 2022. The last time I went was for one of my best friend's wedding, and also for my dad's funeral. So I took some time away. I knew like going back would just just bring back like so many memories of my dad, and I was in my depression, and I kind of just didn't want to go down that road. So I had avoided it for sure. Because before 2022, I had gone back to Cincinnati every single year that I moved to Las Vegas. I think once a year, sometimes twice, and I always went for weddings too for all my best friends. And so this was like the first trip back of like freedom. And what I mean by that is, like I just mentioned, I went back for weddings. So when I was going back, it was just just for the wedding. So I had those obligations. So this was the first trip I had no obligations at all. And I had been thinking about going like early on in my depression, but with work and life, I just really couldn't find, a weekend to get there. And then I had mentioned in one of my other episodes that I had got laid off from my job in August. So I'm like, this is the perfect time. So I immediately text like all my best friends, and just asked all of them like, hey, like give me the dates that you guys would not be in Cincinnati, in the fall. Because I also wanted to check out who they a Bengals game, a Cincinnati Reds game, and a FCC soccer game as well. That's what I grew up doing. Going to all these sporting events. So while I'm home, I like to go to at least some kind of function. So I went to make sure all my best friends were there, and the sports teams were playing. So I made sure I did that, and I finally found a weekend in September where everybody was going to be in town, and the Bengals and Reds were playing. So all was good. So I ended up going to Cincinnati. So I just want to run down a quick itinerary of that whole weekend, starting on Friday. My mom actually went as well. She went like Friday and Saturday, and then like flew to Atlanta. I can't keep up with that woman. She's always traveling somewhere in the United States or somewhere overseas. Like she's in a different. If you know, Like my mom is just. I don't even know where. She's like, where is Carmen Sandiego? Where is Sheila Perkins at? But so we flew in on a red eye Thursday night and got in Friday. And then the first thing we did, we went to Waffle House, one of my favorite diners. If you've never been to a Waffle House, it's just like a 24/7 breakfast diner where fights happen after hours. But the food is really good. I love it. We went there a lot growing up. Um, we took a lot of trips down to Florida, and or we took a lot of trips everywhere, like Florida, the South, the East Coast, and on our way it was either Waffle House or Cracker Barrel. But I loved Waffle House so much, and I used to have a Waffle House right by my house. I lived at in Cincinnati, so that was definitely one of my late night drunk spots. But it's also very good sober as well. But anyways, we did that, and then we just drove around to my childhood home, where I was, raised. We went to my dad's burial site as well, and then she eventually dropped me off back downtown in Cincinnati at my friend Delaney's house where I was staying at, actually across the river in Covington. So you have Cincinnati, then you have the Ohio River, which is a microphone, and then you have Covington, Kentucky. So yeah, so that's where I was staying at. So then my one of my best friends, Danielle, she lives in DC, and we keep in contact very very often. So we were planning to go the same weekend. So we chose, that weekend we went because the Reds were playing as well. So we ended up going to the Reds game, and Nelly was performing as well. So we did both of those events. But we met up at the Banks, and the Banks is just like an area where there's like a lot of bars, restaurants, there's housing, and it's in between. The Red Stadium is on one side, and there's a long street, and then the Bengals Stadium is, on the other side. But the Banks is so much fun. It was built when we were kind of like newly 21, first going out, and just to see it now, it's just so cool to be down there. It just, if there's a sporting event going on, either the Bengals or the Reds game, it is just absolutely like insane down there. It's so much fun. And so we went to, a few bars there, catching up, and then some of my other, besties, met up with us. Shout out to like Emily, Kate, their husbands. And we saw a lot of other people we knew as well, Danielle and I. And it's so funny. We both grew up in Cincinnati, so like every time we go out with each other, we always run into people like we know. It's so funny. It never fails if you grew up in Cincinnati. Like I have friends, like for example, like Delaney. I was just telling you guys where I was staying, and there have been so many times her and other people that aren't from Cincinnati that will go out with me that like hated it a lot of times because we went out to a town called OTR, which is right up the street from the Banks. But in OTR, there's bars, restaurants everywhere. So we would leave one bar, walk a block to like another bar, and like between that block, like I would see, people all the time. We had to stop, talk, and then you would get into the bar, you would see more people. You had to stop and talk. And then, you would leave to another bar, and then you would see other people. And sometimes it's cold outside. So, like, we're, like, trying to, like, get going. But, like, you don't want to be rude. But, like, and obviously, like, you want to go out and you want to socialize. But sometimes it got to the point. I know for them, it's just, like, come on, Bruce. Like, why do you know so many people? But, yeah, so that was so much fun. Don't know where I was going with that story at all. But, yeah, so Danielle and I, went to the game, had so much fun at the game. Then, we saw Nelly afterwards. I've seen Nelly a few times, and every single time it's just so nostalgic. Nelly is definitely good vibes for sure. So that was so much fun. And then we parted ways after that. I went back to Delaney's house, and while I was going back, like I said, she lives like across the river. The Banks was just popping. Everybody in Cincinnati Reds jerseys, shirts, everybody walking across the bridge with me. And they had firework night too, so there's fireworks going on. And I just remember like stopping, just looking across like, the river and just like, damn, like I really do miss this. Like, and I just continued to walk across the bridge and just like, yes, finally, like I'm back home. I'm away from Vegas. I'm away from, this toxic atmosphere I'm in. I'm just away from everything. I'm back home. Like I just felt at home in that moment. I felt alive. Like I said, like I was in my depression too. Like I just felt alive again. And they say home is where the heart is, and that's just how I felt at that moment on the bridge. So I continued to go back to Delaney's house. Got back there, and we just had a very good, genuine conversation that lasted like an hour, hour and a half. And Danielle and I had a very good conversation too, like at the Reds game. But there was a lot of people around. But in this moment, it was just like Delaney and I in her house, and I remember like outside, like I really have not had that kind of like conversation with too many people in Las Vegas, just where you can just sit down and just be real. And like that's what I have like with a lot of my friends like back home in Cincinnati, and like I don't have that here in Vegas besides one or two people like my two closest friends here. But it was just very nice for sure. So that was Friday. So Saturday I woke up, I ran around the city a little bit, and then I did a whole ass world tour around Cincinnati, and it was so much fun. So like, I started off by going up to Fairfield, Ohio, which is like 20-25 minutes outside of the city of Cincinnati, where I grew up. And I went to my high school and I visited my soccer stadium, and I love going there every time I go back because I just love soccer so much. It was so much fun, playing club, and I loved playing for the high school more just because my team was always better. But my senior year, we went to the state finals. We were like one of the best teams in D1 and overall in the whole nation. I think we ended up after that season 13 in the nation. We were number one in the state most of the year, and we end up number two because we lost in PKs in the state finals. It was 0-0. It's crazy because I was an offensive player, but they had the best offense in the state, and we had the best defensive in the state, and we both collided, and it ended up being 0-0, and they won in PKs. One of the That was like one of the saddest like moments of my life up at that moment. I remember after the game, I was like on the field, like crying. You can see like me on the ground. If I find a video, I'll put it up. But I'm like just like this, like on my knees, like praying. Like I was so upset. But so I did that, and then I went to one of the homies' son's birthday party at a soccer facility around the corner from the stadium, and that was so reminiscent because I grew up going to basically living in like 3 or 4 different soccer facilities every single weekend as a kid. Like we would go there. Like I played soccer, my younger brother played soccer, and my older sister played soccer, and we would always have games at these facilities. So we would go there, and we would be like have like a whole 8-hour shift there. We would spend all of our days there, playing our games, and then just playing with just random other players there. They had most of these places had places that you can play like soccer in like back areas. So we would do that. They had games there, arcade games, air hockey. We'd always eat slushies, but it was just so reminiscent being there, and not only seeing my friends, but seeing their kids just like running around the soccer facilities like we used to as growing up. So that was very like nostalgic and reminiscent. That was a good time. Then I went over to one of my best friend Kelsey and Steph's new house that they bought, and also to meet their newborn Jet. That was a lot of fun catching up with them. And then I went down to Corbin's house. Corbin is a homie, which I grew up with him. I've known him since like middle school. We met my mom and his dad end up coaching a team together. So we were with each other all the time. It was me and my brother, Corbin and his brother Ian, and then another set of brothers, Caleb and Christian, and we would spend like every single weekend together on their soccer fields, at each other's houses. Mainly, we went to Corbin's house a lot because they had a huge house, huge basement, where we would just play. What did he play? Halo all the time, Super Smash Brothers. Like I said, huge basement, so we would play like soccer down there, dodgeball, like everything. Like we had so much fun growing up. So went over to his place to see his spot, and he also has kind of like a podcast. It's called like the Social Experiment, where he brings in people, has like a little backdrop like this, and he would have like pictures of like NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, and have people like guess like who are these people. So it's kind of cool. So I got to see that. And then later in that day, I met Kelsey, who I had already seen, and my other best friend Amanda. We went to one of my favorite restaurants in OTR over the Rhine, Bakersfield. Love Bakersfield. It's a Mexican restaurant. The most bomb tacos, the most bomb queso. I don't drink anymore, so I couldn't have the margaritas, but the margaritas are bomb. So if you're ever in Cincinnati in OTR, go to Bakersfield. They also have some in some other cities. I think Nashville and somewhere else. I don't know. But that was so much fun. And then afterwards, we went to a soccer bar called the Pitch to see to watch FCC play. I wanted to see them live in action, but did not. So we settled. It was an away game, so we went to the bar, and some of our other friends, best friends, met up with us. Shout out to Kendra. Who else was there? Matt Whitman, Matt's wife, Kendra's wife, or Kendra's husband. Sorry, Tim. And then also Amanda's husband, Landers, met us there as well. And then we just went out to a gay bar after that. And it was just, that night was so much fun, just being back with all my best friends from back home who I always hang out with. So nostalgic, so reminiscent, and just all the love. And I, I'm coming back to Cincinnati. And then Sunday, went to one of my other favorite spots called the Oak. I used to spend like my weekends there watching sports games and eating the chicken wings with the homies. And then went to Oktoberfest later on that day and met up with Amanda and Landers and Kendra and Tim. And that was so much fun. And then I ended that night going to one of my other favorite spots. Ryan House is just a little sports bar, soccer bar, and just spend some time there with one the besties, Delaney, which that's where I was staying at as well. And then Monday, this is the last day I'll talk about. Monday I went to Kendra. She owns Pure Bar company. She runs different locations in Cincinnati. She has one in Westchester and one in Cincinnati. But took a class there. And let me tell you, Pure Bar is no joke at all. Like, I thought it was just a workout class where people hold on to a bar, do some dips, do some squats. But no, it was a lot harder than I had expected. Like, I was not prepared, like, at all. But got through the class. She said I did great, but like I was struggling. Like, these women up in there, they are boss ass bitches. Like, they were doing work, and I was sore the next day. Like, I was definitely hurting. Like, usually like my workouts, like I'm a runner. I lift every now and then, but mainly I run. So like doing like a different type of workout like that was it was definitely hard. I was in there struggling. And then, I ran 5, 6 miles, around the city, around the banks, wrapped around the Cincinnati Bengals Stadium. That was so much fun. And then later that night, I went to the Bengals game, and I wanted to do like back in the day. I went to like all the Bengals game, and if I didn't, we were downtown watching it. But the pre games of the Bengals game were so much fun. Like, people would get down there like 5, 6 o'clock in the morning to set up and just pregame up to the games at 1 p.m. But that was my attention. It was a Monday night game. That was my attention to get down there around like 3, 4, pregame with all my friends. But it started raining, so that like put a damper on those pregaming plans. So I did not get to experience a tailgate in the past. So that sucks. So hopefully when I come this year, it's not raining. It rains all the time in Cincinnati. I hate it. But that was so much fun. Met up with, got to see one of my boys' best friends, Alex, and his wife, Paige, and I got to see some other people there. Like I said, you see everybody that in Cincinnati. But the game was so much fun. Brought my buddy Henrik with me, and I went with one of my best friends, Ryan. Again, Ryan, thank you for the tickets. Shout out. The game was so much fun. They played the Washington Commanders Monday night. It was on TV. Awesome time outside of the loss. But yeah, that was it. I left Tuesday, did some things Tuesday, but we don't have to talk about that. But I did all this, and the trips around Cincinnati just kind of take me back to where I came from, and it's reminded me of like just so much, like what friendship is, what friendship looks like when people are truly on your side, and to have all that again was just so sorry, I thought like my mic wasn't working for a second. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. But it was just so nostalgic, and it just felt so good to be back because I don't really get that kind of friendship um, here like I do like in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, like people are so like warm, welcoming, friendly, and forthcoming. And in Vegas, it's like opposite. Like there are definitely people that are warm and welcoming, but like for the most part, like there's so many people here with just hidden agendas and like ulterior motives, and like people actually like really don't even like you, even though like they will hang out with you, and they just it's just entertainment here. Like it's Hollywood 2.0 here, and it makes it even more real because like in 3 or 4 years there will be a Hollywood 2.0, like a studios here. I think they break ground like either next year or 2027. But basically like Las Vegas is like the new LA. Like we already have several people that live here and have moved here from LA, and I can only say like probably more than likely a lot more people will move here when those Hollywood studios are up and running. But so all this to say, like being back in Cincinnati, like before like I moved, like I was so happy like living in Cincinnati. Like I was the happiest like of my life. Like I did not have a care in the world. Like I was surrounded by my family, all my best friends, my lifelong friends, people who are just like genuine, supportive, care about me and just have my best interests at heart. And that's something I really don't get a lot from my friends here. But it just took me back to a time when I just felt like life was easy. I'm back with all my friends. I felt at home. I felt like safe. Like not safe as in like security, like I need somebody like to protect me, but like safe as in a sense of like I don't always have to like have like my guard up at all in Cincinnati. Like here in Las Vegas, I feel like I always have to have my guard up because people just have ulterior motives, and it's just not right. And then like a lot of my friends too, like back in Cincinnati, like I've known for like a while, like most of them dating back to like I mentioned Corbin, like I've known him since like middle school, but most of the people like, I've known since like middle school and high school. So like I have so many of my best friends now, like I've known for like 15 to 20 years, and some I've known, more than 20 years. Like, and just saying that out loud, I was like, damn, like I'm old. And like I feel like I'm not really getting those, friendships like here, like those best friendships and those lifelong friendships like I have like in Cincinnati. So it was just so nice to, be around that again. And so like that's how I know like all my friendships like in Cincinnati are real. Like I talk to so many more of my Cincinnati friends than I do the people that actually like live in Las Vegas, like here that like that I'm like hanging out with or we're hanging out with. So like 90% of like my friendships here in like Las Vegas are just like I don't know, just I learned coming out of my depression, they're just like fake and just out of convenience, and I'm just not used to that. And I do want to make it clear, like I love living in Las Vegas, like without a doubt. It's just like with the people, there's just so much fakeness, and I just cannot deal with it anymore. And like it's already hard enough like making friends as an adult, and like trying to make friends like living out here like on the west coast in Las Vegas, where like a lot of fake people like are like again like I said, like where I'm right by LA, like I'm on the west coast, and it's just a whole nother ballpark trying to make friends out here. It's definitely not like making friends like back home, like in Cincinnati at all. And also, it's such a transient city as well. So like people are in and out. So that's another, you know, thing that sucks about living in Las Vegas, trying to make friends. And even like going out like in Cincinnati all the time. Like I love being surrounded again by like all like the Midwest people. Like Midwest people are so different than Vegas people. and the West Coast people in general. But like, out in the Midwest, I feel like there's just so much more like morals and values, and people, have a really good head on their shoulder. Everybody, like I mentioned, is like, just so friendly and so welcoming. And like any day of the week, like in my like going out party days, I'd rather go out in Cincinnati than like Las Vegas any day. And I would tell like my friends that here, and they would just like look at me like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, it's like it's just a sense of community in Cincinnati, and there's always stuff to do here. But I feel like the whole like party and bar scene is a lot more like fluent in Cincinnati, where like if you go out like on like I think I mentioned like Sunday is like my most fun day to drink, and it's because like in Cincinnati, you have your Bengals game and or whatever, but like there's always something going on in Cincinnati too, like whether it's at the bars or some kind of like public event going on. There's always such a like a good sense of community that brings the community out, and you're just kind of all sharing the same experiences. As like in Vegas, everybody's here from different countries and cities, so you don't really have that sense of community as you would like kind of like in a smaller town, in a town that's not so touristy. I'm just like done with these people. Like if all these people can only be around me while I'm drinking, this is not the people like I want to surround myself with. What's up, Foxies? Thanks for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And be sure to follow me on social media at the Foxhole Pod. See you next time.